What's going on, my fellow A-Plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode of A-Plus Morphinominal, your stop for your Power Rangers, Super Sentai, and Kamen Rider review and news right here on our YouTube page. It is I, your Morphinominal host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new video today. I told you guys our feed all this week on YouTube was going to be super busy since the fact that we wind up missing last weekend's episode of A-Plus Morphinominal. I had some catch up to do in regards to some news and reviews for you guys throughout the week. I feel like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and today we've had content for you guys. And don't worry, tomorrow, Saturday, we will in fact be having our live episode of A-Plus Morphinominal at noon Central Time. So definitely go ahead and tune in then live, guys, to certainly join us as we wrap up this week's news and reviews for Power Rangers. What I wanted to do today was a little bit something special, simply because of the fact that last week, Mighty Morphin issue number 1 wind up dropping for us. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, I'm a huge Boom comic book reader. I've been really impressed with everything that Boom Studios has really done in regards to the Power Ranger franchise when it comes to comic books. And so last week, we did have the release of the brand new sort of unlimited power era that we now are jumping into. Now that we've said farewell to those Mighty Morphin Power Ranger comic book days, we are moving on to something else. And so last week, we did get Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue number 1 that was in fact released. We missed doing the review for it this past weekend. And then this week, guys, we actually wind up having ourselves Power Rangers issue number 1 wind up dropping today at your local comic book store this past Wednesday. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out either of these issues, certainly go ahead and support your local comic book store if you have one nearby, and definitely go ahead and pick these up. So guys, we have begun this brand new era of Power Ranger comic books. And so what I thought it would be cool today was just to go ahead and review them together for you guys. So instead of waiting until this weekend to go ahead and jump on this Power Ranger issue number 1, I thought it would be pretty cool to go ahead and just highlight both of them together. So that's exactly what we're going to go ahead and do and break down both of these issues for you guys. But I wanted to give you a heads up before we even get into these reviews. While we don't necessarily do giveaways all the time, every now and then we certainly do, to go ahead and thank you guys for everything that you certainly do for us. So what I wanted to do, since this was a new special occasion, especially for Boom Studios, Ryan Parrott, and everybody that works on these comic books, I wanted to do a little bit of a giveaway for you guys. There are a ton of variant covers out there currently in regards to Mighty Morphin issue number 1 and Power Rangers issue number 1. And so what I wanted to do was specifically find the issues that certainly connect together visually, and one of the ones that always jumped out at me was in fact Dan Amora's artwork. Guys, I don't know if you're very familiar with seeing some of these variant covers or not, but it's one giant connective tissue here. So when you put these two together like so, boom, you've got one gigantic picture here. So we've got this is the Mighty Morphin issue number 1, and this is Power Rangers issue number 1. When put together, you get yourselves a gigantic just photo of all the Power Rangers. So I'm going to be giving this away this weekend. I will in fact be doing an individual video Saturday afternoon sometime, letting you know how you guys can certainly enter and win these beautiful variant covers for the Mighty Morphins issues 1 and Power Rangers issue number 1. So stay tuned this weekend, guys, because we will be putting out a new video specifically for the giveaway. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I guess we should start diving into our reviews in regards to this. Man, first and foremost, I've been really anticipating these. You know, the one thing that I've been asking people is like, look, if you're not into Power Ranger comic books, if you've been thinking about it, maybe thought about dabbling in it, but maybe was just a little bit overwhelmed because we were like 50 issues in, it's kind of hard to jump on board to a series that late into its run. And so I honestly thought that the unlimited power sort of era that we're now entering would be a really great opportunity for people to jump on board. So I highly recommend it, guys. If you are thinking about jumping into Boom Studios comic books for Power Rangers, this is definitely the go-ahead kickoff point. And I love the fact that both of these issues are, in fact, written by Ryan Parrott. So there definitely is going to be some connective tissues, I'm assuming, if anything, as this series winds up sort of progressing. And we'll get to it when we get to the end of Power Rangers issue number 1 here. I will be interested to see if the connective tissues of that storyline has any effect going on into the Mighty Morphin storyline line as well. So let's go ahead and get into Mighty Morphin issue number 1. This is, again, written by Ryan Parrott, and we got ourselves a brand new artist on board for this franchise, Marco Arena. I'm not sure if Marco Arena has done any Power Ranger work in the past, but this is the first time that I've been introduced to him on the main title itself. And talk about just beautiful artwork. Absolutely beautiful artwork. We even saw this in some of his preview pages. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to feel about his civilian mode when it comes to some of the characters. I think his Power Ranger artwork is fantastic, almost as dynamic, honestly, as like Danielle Di Nicuolo and Dan Mora. So I'm really eager to see what Marco Arena is certainly going to bring to the table. But what I've seen so far in issue number 1, he's knocking it out of the park. Some incredible artwork, to be perfectly honest with you. I do love how this issue turns out, to be honest with you. I love just the growth alone, or at least the showcase of Zordon in here. Getting to kick off this issue, showcasing a younger life of Zordon, maybe him in his prime and all of his glory as part of the Guardians of Eltar. I thought that was a really neat sort of story for Ryan Parrott to go ahead and jump back on. And for me, it makes me feel like maybe Zordon's going to have a pretty relevant purpose for this season going forward. Like maybe they'll really push Zordon to the forefront a little bit. Some of his conversations he's had with Billy in this issue, I think is really, I want to say really incredible for Ryan Parrott to kind of break down Zordon the way that he certainly does, allowing us to kind of see a more lighter side of him, if you will, conversing about maybe his life in the past. I don't feel like we hear Zordon talk too much about that. So to hear Zordon just open up to somebody like Billy and then get a hint of what his life was in the past, I thought was a really great addition for Zordon here in this episode, in this particular issue. And then when you do go over to see him in Power Rangers, well, we get the lighter side of him on Mighty Morphin when you look at the Power Ranger side of things, and Zordon certainly losing his temper when it comes to the Omega Rangers. It's like night and day between these two Zordons, but I definitely understand. And again, I do think that Zordon's certainly going to play a pivotal role in this story, certainly going forward. The one thing that I will say that stands out to me in this is probably Billy. The idea that Billy literally has the audacity to like stand in front of Zordon and literally lie to this man in his face. Like we've seen coming up and reading in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series that Billy has been working behind the scenes with Grace Sterling in order to bring back the Green Ranger. He's talked about it with some of his fellow Rangers. I believe even Aisha winds up bringing up that speculation towards Kimberly in here, that there are some people that are wondering like, how much does Billy know? And the fact alone that I think we see Billy hanging out in the command center, literally talking to Zordon and lying to Zordon about what he certainly does know, when we do see Zordon even opening up a little bit more about his own personal life. It's like, do you really want to lie to Zordon after like the homeboy literally just came out and just told you some things about his life and is getting much more personal with you than we've ever really seen him before? And here we've got Billy just kind of playing that scapegoat, or like the deer in headlights. Like, I have no idea what's going on right now, but clearly lying to a Zordon and the rest of the team. But I did find it interesting that Aisha certainly was picking it up. Quick honorable mention does go out to Lord Zed in this episode, in this issue also. We get to see some of his minions trying to do his job for him while Lord Zed certainly recovers. But the fact that we come to find out that Lord Zed now has the power of sort of the green chaos crystal, or at least remnants of that ability inside of him. Talk about being even more deadly, right? Like if Lord Zed wasn't terrifying enough to make you quake and shake in your boots, then I don't know what certainly would, especially now knowing that Lord Zed has that additional power of the green chaos crystal. So I'm going to be really interested to see exactly what type of powers and abilities it gives Lord Zed, but our Rangers are not ready for this. Not ready at all. And it's probably the perfect time for them to get somebody like the Green Ranger on their side. So I'm expecting a feud between these two, the Green Ranger and Lord Zed, at some particular point in time, since the new Green Ranger really went toe to toe with him on his own. And speaking of the Green Ranger, I do love the fact that it still remains a mystery. If anything, we are kind of in the process of now eliminating some of the options. If you look at the Power Rangers issue number 1, we clearly get to see that Lord Draken is not the one. They even clarify that in Mighty Morphin when they are in fact fighting and the new Green Ranger does pop up. I love that Adam tries to reach out to Zordon like, hey, do you still see Draken in his containment cell? And yes, he certainly still is in there. So Draken, you are not the Green Ranger. And I look, you know, I remember seeing on Twitter a few months ago, I remember it was at Nightmare, who also does the Power Scoop. One of their theories was in fact that it was Matt. And I'm still very much on that board with their decision here and thinking that perhaps it is in fact Matt that's going to be this new Green Ranger. Who certainly knows, but it's definitely up in the air. But I love getting the opportunity to see our Rangers debating about that, trying to figure out whose side they're on. Is it a he? Is it a she? Who knows what? So I do love the fact that it still continues to be a mystery in here. But one of the things that makes me lean towards the idea that it could potentially be Matt is literally just the scene that we get in this issue of Matt meeting Tommy. Like, I even think Matt even mentions that they haven't formally met, but they are very much aware of each other because of their past, both of them having dated Kimberly at one particular point in time. If you ask me, just for Tommy's storyline, I really would love Matt to be on board with this team, just so we can have those awkward moments and just see how they grow as a team. Do they become friends? Is there still animosity and jealousy between these two? Who certainly knows? But the fact that Matt literally reaches out to shake Tommy's hand and Tommy just ignores it and like just makes reference like, yeah, we're aware of each other, yada, 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 and then walks off without shaking his hand. I think that's pretty telling. I don't expect Matt and Tommy to be friends at any particular point in time. But as far as like storyline, drama, I think it would be really great for a storyline and for a series to have those two conflicting interests with each other, especially on the same team. So I'm really intrigued, man. I thought this was a great kickoff point, getting an opportunity to see a lot more civilian mode aspect of them, really focusing on their, them being in high school, getting an opportunity to see them outside of their Ranger gear and continuing to build up their characters. A complete win, honestly. Quick honorable mention does go out to some really great moments in this issue. The Pandemonium character I thought was brilliant, honestly. Beautiful splash page by Marco Arena in regards to seeing our Power Rangers actually transform. There's a great section in here where they're all giving out brand new like monster names for them to come up with. Like, what's next? Killer Koala. They put Lethal Loris, Mercat the Merciless, Penguinicide, like just some of the I don't know who comes up with these names, but absolutely perfect, to be honest with you. But yeah, man, I was really impressed, to be honest with you guys, when it comes to this issue. I really recommend it. And of course, the swerve at the end, the huge reveal at the end of this issue definitely lets me know that Zordon is certainly going to have a pivotal role to play in this series going forward. And I'm here for it. I'm definitely here for it. But that was issue number 1 for Mighty Morphin, guys. Again, I definitely recommend you check it out. And then this allows us to move on to Power Rangers issue number 1. I wasn't quite sure exactly. Again, I'm still not sure exactly how connected a lot of these issues are certainly going to be. But the fact that Mighty Morphin showcases to us that Lord Draken isn't the Green Ranger, and we clearly get to see in Power Rangers issue number 1 that the Omega Rangers, they certainly have plans for Lord Draken. And I gotta say, man, you want to talk about raising the stakes, causing animosity, building further distrust between two teams. Ryan Parrott, you've outdone yourself, man. You've outdone yourself, man. I was so impressed with this issue, to be honest with you. Like, I'm not the biggest fan. I'm just be honest. I'm not the biggest fan of the artist, Francisco Mortarino. But the one thing that I mentioned when we looked at the previews, the preview pages for Power Rangers, is that whoever the artist, like the colorist is, or whoever does the ink work or whatever, it looks like colored by Raul Angulo. Man, I think he helps allow Mortarino's artwork to just pop, and it pops off the page in just great artwork, great vibrant colors. Was really impressed with everything from top to bottom when I read this issue. So we get to see that the Omega Rangers here are still dealing with trying to figure out who the Imperial are. We saw them a couple of issues back in Mighty Morphin, where it literally ravaged an entire planet, killing millions of people, destroying the planet in a sense to kind of wipe them out and kind of start over. Didn't find them. What is the name? I can't remember what the name is. But he certainly didn't find them worthy enough. And so this Imperial, whoever this alien species is, decided to go ahead and wipe out this entire planet. And now this has our Omega Rangers kind of shaking in their boots, not quite sure what to do. But the only thing that Jason does know how to do is go back to Zordon and see if they can come up with any information. And so when we see our Omega Rangers come back, hey, happy reunion time, right? Everybody here to hug. So great to see. But Jason has other plans. Jason has other plans. When they come to find out that when they come to find out that Zordon does in fact have Draken in captivity and realizes that Draken knows about the Imperials, that's the reason why Draken's been in hiding, why he's been running, why we saw this guy literally land in this comet onto Earth once again, in a chance to go ahead and flee from the Imperial. So if Lord Draken is frightened of these guys, yeah, then I'm certainly worried. And I think he even mentions the idea that he watched one of the Imperials actually even kill one of their leaders. I'm assuming probably a former emissary. And I believe we even mentioned that when we read the comic book, that I wouldn't have been surprised if he's fought and killed other emissaries in the past. So I love the fact that Lord Draken certainly confirms that. But because of the fact that Lord Draken knows about Imperial, Jason also understands that that Zordon doesn't want to necessarily take unnecessary risks in regards to letting Draken out to certainly help them, and wants to try and at least find who Imperial is. We do in fact see that Jason makes a very bold and maybe a very unwise decision to go ahead and just break out Lord. I don't know why I keep saying Lord Zed. Maybe we'll keep saying Lord Draken. Wants to break out Draken, but at the end of the day, that just simply means really destroying sort of any trust that you've built between your Power Rangers and Zordon. And according to Jason, it's worth the risk, man. It's clearly worth the risk. To see where Zordon was in Mighty Morphin, to see him here in Power Rangers do a complete 180 and just pissed off, just angry as can be at Jason. I don't know if I've ever seen Zordon like that mad and that hurt, but Jason has certainly opened up the floodgates. Like, I don't know if there's any going back for this team at that particular point in time. The fact that Jason just does not trust Zordon, it feels like, or his own team. Like, I feel like maybe Zordon would have eventually have done the right thing. Maybe I'm wrong, right? Like, if there's anything I know about Zordon, there are elements of Zordon where there can be some selfish decisions, right? Maybe some fear involved. Maybe he doubts himself. Who certainly knows? But I feel like when it comes to Zordon, he has secrets. And maybe there's a reason why he certainly didn't want to trust Lord Draken with Jason. I mean, I think Zordon even mentions the idea, like, I think he says Draken is the closest thing that he's ever come to losing the planet or losing the universe, right? And so Zordon certainly doesn't want to take that chance after defending this world and universe for thousands of years. The one thing that he certainly doesn't want to get out is, in fact, Lord Draken. But Jason's just like, you know what, Zordon? Big middle finger, man. I'm taking this guy with us. And I think what hurts the most, honestly, is the attack on Alpha 5. And now, while I know it wasn't the Omega Rangers that attacked Alpha, but the idea of, like, Draken escaping, right? You already take off his restraining bolt, which I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? So the idea of Draken attacking Alpha 5 and our team literally having to leave Alpha there in just the extremely terrible shape, because of the fact that they're afraid that they're going to get caught. Like, here you go, Zordon. Here's Alpha. I'm sorry, but we got to go. That hurt. That really hurt. Just because of what Alpha 5 means to the team. You know, Zach, Trini, and Jason, I know they certainly didn't want this to happen to somebody like Alpha. I mean, granted, he's a robot, right? But we know what Alpha means to the team. So for me, I think it hurt more than this episode to see Alpha in the state that he's in, Zordon just so incredibly pissed, and our team, because of the fact that they didn't want to get caught, just bails and leaves everybody in just like this storm of like destruction. Like, what just happened here, guys? And confusion. I think that's what hurts. I think that's what hurts me as a viewer, as a reader of this. But I think that's just amazing storytelling. The fact that Ryan Parrott has let these Omega Rangers team really become sort of outlaws, mavericks of their own, and doing things on their own in order to protect the galaxy. I am really fascinated to see what the ramifications of these actions are going to be. When we get into Mighty Morphin issue number 2, is Alpha going to be there? Is Alpha gone? Is Lord Draken gone? Or is he still going to be included somehow in their storylines, right? Like, I really would like to see how this is all, how the actions of both of these series are definitely going to affect each other, certainly going forward. I continue to really enjoy. Also, you know, one of the things that I loved about this issue too, I love the Jason and Rocky moment in here, because they talk about the idea of Red Rangers being the leader, and Rocky really wants to kind of ask Jason, like, hey, because of the fact that I'm not a leader and I've had to replace you on this team, do you look at me sort of as a disappointment, right? And I feel like that's, and I don't want to say I've looked at Rocky sort of as a disappointment, but like, you know, as a viewer watching the television show, when you do see this new team come in, a lot of the time you look at Rocky and you just think he's just a copy paste and print of Jason, right? Like they wanted to try and mold this guy into Jason, but not quite, right? Give you the look of Jason, but not that huge leadership role of Jason, because we got somebody like Tommy. So, you know, I think people tend to look at Rocky sort of as like the second-rate Red Ranger, if you will. And so I'm glad that Ryan Parrott tackles these sort of social commentary moments of what the outside world might talk about, and then having them focused on in the comics. So to be able to have somebody like Jason sit down with Rocky and say, hey, you know, you shouldn't base your success off of like what color you are, right? And I don't mean like the color of your skin, but I mean like what color you represent. He says something along the lines of, let me see if I can pull this up. He says, you don't need your color to define you. And I thought that was really brilliant, because he talks about the idea like, hey, I'm a Red Ranger, and look at me, right? Like I'm flying blind at the moment when it comes to being the leader of the Omega Rangers. I don't know what to do. Like, maybe that makes me a failure and I'm the one in charge, and I have no idea what I'm certainly doing right now. So I love the fact that he lets you know, like, don't let the color that you are sort of define you. You are who you are sort of as a person. Doesn't matter if you're wearing red, doesn't matter if you're yellow, it doesn't matter if you're in the black gear, whatever the case may be, you still have to be your own individual. And I love that. I truly love that. And I think for me, and this is probably completely separate from what Jason was talking about, but I kind of feel like there's some credibility to it. You know, the idea of, you know, we talk all the time about, you know, it's funny when we were talking about the Dino Fury cast, right? And I was saying, you know, Russell Curry, I think Russell Curry would be great as the Black Ranger just because of his stature alone, right? Like, when I look at the Super Sentai footage, I see Bomba is a pretty thick guy. He's pretty big, got a big stature to him. When I look at Russell Curry, that's kind of what I envision, right? As the Black Ranger. And then I had some people saying like, you know, I don't think Russell Curry could be the Black Ranger because of the fact that he's black in real life, that people would have an issue with him being the Black Ranger. And I think for me, that kind of goes to what Jason is. Like, we shouldn't let the idea of a color sort of define us. Like, just because, and again, this is hypothetical because clearly Russell isn't the Black Ranger. But if Russell was, same thing with Samuel from Overdrive as the Black Ranger, the idea of what color he represents has nothing to do with the color of his skin, right? Like, him being a Black Ranger, that color doesn't define Russell Curry or Samuel, right? Like, there isn't anything there. So we shouldn't hold people we shouldn't hold people to that just because of the color that they're representing from a Power Ranger team, because that's all it is at the end of the day. You don't, just because you're a Red Ranger doesn't mean you have to be the leader of the team. You bring what you bring to the team because that's who you are, not because of the color of your suit. And I think that's just really compelling and a really great point of view from Ryan Parrott to go ahead and focus on, and really giving Rocky some hope to be like, look, man, be your own individual, right? And we get to see Rocky do that, especially when he goes on to become Zeo, which I personally think is probably a prime Rocky as Zeo Blue. I think he finally finds himself as part of that team during that period. So I think this is probably a great first step for Rocky to have that conversation with the previous Red Ranger to just to let him know, like, hey, man, you're almost as good as me when it comes to fighting, right? Like, you're your own individual. Just because you're the Red Ranger and not the leader, don't worry about it, man. Do not worry about it. And so I thought that was a great conversation between them. So look, Ryan Parrott continues to impress me, man. If there is anybody out there that has their pulse on Power Rangers, understands these characters, it's a ton of these writers and editors that are certainly on board with Boom Studios, and they continue to impress me and knock it out of the park, honestly. But guys, listen, overall, great way to go ahead and kick off the unlimited power. We've got more like when I think of Mighty Morphin, a little bit more of the lighthearted side, very vibrant in colors, right? The more casual side of things for a lot of the civilian mode stuff. You even get to see a little bit of Bulk and Skull. You know, the mystery of the Green Ranger still surrounds everybody. So there definitely is a much different feel from Mighty Morphin to something like Power Rangers, where it does feel, while the colors are certainly vibrant, it definitely feels a little bit darker, a little, I don't want to say even a little bit more adult, but the fact that we're getting our Omega Rangers team literally giving a giant FU to to Zordon and the rest of the Rangers by kidnapping Lord Draken for themselves. Yeah, you want to talk about really just diving a stake into poor Zordon's heart, man. Who knows what's going to happen between these two teams, but it definitely went to the dark side of things rather quickly, and I'm loving every single minute of it. But guys, listen, I want to know your thoughts at the end of the day. When you picked up Mighty Morphin #1 and Power Rangers #1, what did you think? These are just my A+ opinions. At the end of the day, though, I certainly want to go ahead and know yours. So please let me know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, if anything, maybe we'll talk about Power Rangers issue #1 a little bit more this weekend. But do not worry. Again, we do have our giveaway, and we will be making an individual video for the giveaway this weekend. So certainly go ahead and look out for that. But other than that, guys, do me a big favor. In the meantime, until I see you tomorrow, Saturday, live at noon Central Time, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And as always, keep it A+. May the power protect you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.